Hello, welcome back. Today we are going to be catching up in my reading journal because I am very behind. I just checked, I'm 14 books behind in my little book tracker section, so I'm just gonna print them all out and we'll chat through the books as I put them in. Normally I like to do these in short form, but since I have so many to catch up on, I figured I would just do them all at once here in a video for you guys. So let's do it. Okay, so we have my books printed. Again, you'll see that the HP sprocket does not get the colors quite accurately, and they are quite desaturated. So it's not my favorite print quality, but so I would not recommend this new, but I grabbed this used off eBay, so I'm perfectly happy with it. And in fact, I love it because I got such a good deal on it. So just a little heads up there. If you are noticing that the colors don't look great, that's why. We have in the back of my Hobonichi Weeks, this is where I am keeping track of the order of the books that I've read and the number of books. So since I print these in sets of 4, obviously, we are doing Georgie all along through Bat Eater and Other Names of Cora Zeng, and I will get to these two once I've read 2 more books. So let's pop on over here and then start cutting them out. And I've also got my story graph pulled up here so that I can remember what I rated them. For most of them I do remember my ratings, but just in case, I like to be sure. And then this also helps me remember the order of what I've read things, because once I flip over to this page, obviously, I can no longer see the other section. Okay, so let's go ahead and do these 4 first to get them out of the way. So we had Georgie All Along. This is a contemporary romance by Kate Clayborn. I got this in my Book of the Month box. I want to say back in like February of 2023. So I was really happy to finally get this off of my physical TBR, and I loved it. I half and half read it physically and then also picked up the audiobook from Libby because it was available. And I will say I wish I had just read it all physically, because while the narrators did a great job, the male narrator was trying to do a southern accent because this takes place in coastal Virginia, and he did slip into like an Australian accent quite often. He couldn't do the like hard A sound, so when he would try and say a word like back, it would come out like beck, and it sounded Australian, and it really took me out of it. And I wish, because he has a great voice, I wish he had just done it normally. I mean, I lived in Virginia for 5 years, and I feel like a lot of people had different accents, so like it would have been perfectly believable if he had just done a normal accent, but that's just my 2 cents. This was really, really cute though. Our main character, Georgie, she moves back home after losing her job in LA. She used to be like a personal assistant for a high up exec in Hollywood, and the woman retires, and so she's ended up feeling kind of lost and a little bit unsure of what she wants to do. And so she moves back home to her hometown, and she's going to be staying with her best friend who is expecting her first baby, but then ends up feeling a little bit in the way because her and her husband are just like fully in their lovey-dovey pregnancy phase. So she ends up going home to her parents' house, and she's going to stay there, except for, oops, her parents, they had asked our main male character to house sit while they're gone. And so we have a little bit of forced proximity, and it's just really sweet. Georgie's going on this journey of self-discovery, and the 2 of them end up doing some cute like tasks together. I don't know, just check it out. It was really, really cute. And I just saw they're going to be adapting it into a movie, so I'm very curious to see how that goes. Then going in a completely opposite direction, we have Kingdoms of Death by Christopher Ruocchio. This is the 4th book in the Sun Eater series, and wow, it was so good. We get so much world expansion. I'm gonna try not to go into too many specifics so we don't like spoil anything, but we get to see a couple new worlds, new planets that we've not been to before with our crew, which is always fun. We get a lot more lore building. We get a lot more about the Cielsen specifically, which is awesome. These are our main alien enemies in this sort of, battle for intergalactic peace. And then just a huge emotional journey for Hadrian. And I made the crucial error of listening to this as I drove into work the last sort of 45 minutes or so, and I was just sobbing, just tears going down my face. I had to like recombobulate myself, fix my makeup, all that before I went into my office, and it was incredible. I know a lot of people struggle with, for example, character death, but I I love a huge emotional impact. And that might be a mild spoiler, but like people die all the time. So I'm not going to say who died, and I'm not going to say how many people died, if anyone dies, but like in general, just anyone passing away in a book. Um, if you can craft it in a way that like gets to me in that way, I'm super impressed and I just love it. So yeah, 5 stars. And I'm on hold to finish the rest of them because I'm waiting for my husband to catch up. So as long as he can catch up before November, we're good. But yeah, I really want to read Ashes of Man, but also I think I need a bit of a breather before we go there. So, all right. Then the next one I read was Every Sweet Thing is Bitter. This was my book of the month pick for last month, and honestly, I was pretty disappointed with it. It was one of those ones that's like insanely triggering, but I felt like for no reason didn't really go anywhere. And then I felt there was a couple problematic themes that were not necessarily fully thought out. I didn't love the sort of resolution, but essentially, the hook for this book is our main character runs over her mom when she's a teenager, goes to jail, and then she comes back to her hometown when her mom goes missing. Sounds really compelling, right? Except for it's not really a thriller, it's not really a mystery, it's definitely more of a lit fic because it's all about like family dynamics and town drama and all of that. And for me, the main thing that like was like the thing pulling it all together and was the justification for everything that all the decisions all the characters had made, that main thing made no sense and actually really frustrated me. And then when I guessed the who done it, instead of being proud of myself for figuring it out, I was just annoyed. So yeah, didn't really like that one that much. And I just unhaul it. So bye bye. Then I listened to Rose House by Arkady Martine. And this was delightful. This was a short little sci-fi novella about a fully AI-run house that was created by this famous architect who then dies. And when he dies, he leaves it to his former like protege student. And so she has to come in and like take care of it because she gets a notification from the local police that there's a body at Rose House, but the only person who is permitted to enter is the woman who inherited the house. And so I thought it was really creative. I thought it spoke a lot about the implications of AI in our world and automation of jobs. And yeah, it was really good. It was a little creepy, a little freaky, and I want to read more by Arkady Martine. So it was really fun. After that, I read A Season of Light by Julie Iromuanya. This is another lit fic. So this book covers a family in 2014, I believe, who let me make sure I'm getting my facts straight. Okay, so it's covering the abduction of the 276 schoolgirls from Nigeria. So it's 2014, I believe. And it's a family of Nigerian immigrants who are living in Florida. The father was a former lawyer and now sort of struggling in a time of struggle now because he's extremely triggered by this event. He's a former POW of the Nigerian Civil War. And so when the news breaks of the 276 girls being abducted, he sort of loses it. He has a mental sort of breakdown and he ends up locking his daughter up in her room because he wants to keep her safe. And so I don't know. I don't know how I did that. This was a 3-star read for me. It was almost just too short. I thought that some of the themes needed to be explored in a little bit of a more fleshed out way. And everything that the author tried to say, I think, just happened a bit too fast. And where the framework of it, I thought really could have gone somewhere, the execution didn't really do it for me. So it's a really important topic, but for me, just didn't quite hit the mark. After that, I finished 11/22/63, and I loved it so much. It made me cry. This is my first Stephen King book, and I know that this is not his usual flavor of writing, but I truly thought it was incredible. I switched back and forth between physically reading this and then listening to the audiobook, and some people, because I was reading this as a part of a book club, some people really didn't like the audiobook narrator because he's like 70 something in real life, and our main character Jake is like 30. For me, that didn't bother me. I honestly didn't even really register that as a difference, but essentially this has some time travel elements. Our main character Jake gets sucked in. He gets sucked into his friend Al's crazy idea that if they could stop the JFK assassination, they could improve the state of the world for so many different reasons. And all of this is because in Al's pantry, in his diner, is a portal to 1958. And so Jake really gets sucked in to this task and ends up going back in time and trying to carry out the prevention of the assassination after Al passes away from lung cancer. And so I loved this so much. It was extremely immersive. It made me fully believe that I was back in 1958 with Jake. This book covers so many different things, but for me, it was a story about love and found family and the joy and impact of teaching. The main character Jake is a teacher, and there's just so many things I loved about it. And then I watched the miniseries, and it basically took everything I loved about the book out and then made Jake look like an idiot for no reason. And so, yeah, I just wasn't really impressed with the miniseries, but I am happy that I watched it. So that was a 5-star read for me. And then in preparation for Left of Forever coming out, I read Savor It, and I picked up the audiobook because I hadn't listened to it before, and this was an incredible audiobook. I loved it so much. It's one of my favorite audiobooks now, in addition to one of my favorite books. And once again, it was a 5-star read for me. We are not surprised. So then my husband, since he is reading Sun Eater for me, I am reading some Warhammer books for him because that's his favorite sort of everything. He does the tabletop gaming, he 3D prints his own models, he paints them, plays the games, reads the book, all that. It's his thing. So I read Horus Rising by Dan Abnett. For me, I think this was a good introduction to the series, but also at times a little confusing if you don't know a lot about the world already. But it was fun, and I will be continuing to read more because we are trading off, and I want him to finish Sun Eater, so I will continue to read in this series. And also, if there's one thing about me, is that I just love talking about books with people, so it's been fun to just have sort of a buddy read going with him. Okay, then Left of Forever came out May 20th. Yay, it was such a good day. And I had already read the book in February. I got an ARC. Was so excited about that. And so on release day, I grabbed the audiobook and listened to that, and it was incredible. No one is surprised that this was a 5-star read for me. This book is a contemporary romance, picking up where Savor It leaves off. We have our main character in Savor It is Sage, our girl here. She is the sister to Ellis here, and then Ren and Sage are best friends. So they're all, they grew up together, they're all close. At one point, their relationship falls apart, they get divorced, and so this is them trying to reconnect to see if there's anything that can be salvaged in their relationship. And it was just beautiful, and I love them. And it was such a realistic exploration of how relationships grow and change and evolve and struggle, and how sometimes things don't work out, but sometimes they do, and it was beautiful. Then I read The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, and that's off center, so sorry for anyone who cares about that. And I had just such a great time with this. I don't know, I put it on Storygraph as a 4.5, but I'm kind of feeling like it's a 5-star read because I read it in like just a couple of sittings. It was so immersive. It's a revenge story, and we've got flawed characters, but we've got also incredible growth of characters. I love when a book shows us a character getting stronger and progressing and becoming badass. I'm kind of growing weary of books where it's like they were the most feared assassin, they were the strongest warrior. Like, I like actually seeing them get to that moment, and so we definitely get that here. A very intriguing magic system, immersive world building, and a couple really big questions that I just can't wait to see how they come together and how they fully flesh out with the world building and how everything is interconnected. And so I absolutely loved that. It was such a good book. Then I listened to Still Life with Bones by Alexa Hagerty. This is a nonfiction book about genocide and the anthropological, is that a word? Sure. Endeavors to excavate, identify, and notify families of victims. And I thought it was incredibly beautifully written, very impactful and important, such an important topic. And then I mean this in the most genuine way, not in sort of like I don't want to trivialize this story, but as someone who was an incredibly big fan of Bones when I was 16, 17, like college or high school age, this sparked that interest in anthropology again. It reminded me of all the ways that I loved Temperance Brennan as a character. But the sort of like conclusion of this story is that Alexa Hagerty says she now wants to stop working in the field of anthropology, like actually in these places and doing the excavations and identifications. And instead she wants to work to prevent genocide from ever happening again. And yet, in all the promotion of her book and all the like things that I have been able to find online, she has not mentioned any of the current atrocities happening now. So we've got obviously a couple that are, I think, the most talked about. We have Palestine, we have Congo, we have Sudan. There's so many things happening right now that I just assumed she would have talked about. And so it really left a bad taste in my mouth that she hadn't talked about those things. And I think I could have maybe looked past it if she hadn't specifically said that she wants to work to prevent them from ever happening again. The fact that she did say that just sort of like felt really hypocritical to me, and I'm happy to be proved wrong if anyone knows any more information about this author or her work. But for now, I have to give this 1 star because that just, I don't know, just like I said, left a bad taste in my mouth. Then I read Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng. This is a horror / suspense novel. And it took me a long time to finish it because it was actually quite triggering. Our main character suffers from OCD, and some of her battles with intrusive thoughts I found, while incredibly relatable, I also found to be quite triggering for myself. So I had to read this one slow, but it was so, so good. It was beautifully written. I thought the themes were incredibly well developed. And I just had a great time reading this. It was so good. I think check your trigger warnings before going into it. It pretty much runs the gamut of things from like body horror to racism to prejudice to everything. But it was incredibly good, and I'm still thinking about it. So had a great time with that one. But yeah, there we go. Those are our most recent additions. And let me know what you guys have been reading, and if you've read any of these books in particular, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. But in the meantime, I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.